Okay, the program is now officially not what's written down for the rest of the day, which is a change from the rest of yesterday and everything, but that's all right. What we're going to do is talk for a wee bit longer about the programming standards. We've then got 3 brief talks about various topics, and then it's going to be what do you want to do and for the rest of the day. So I'll hand over. Yep. Cool.
Hi. Well, one thing I forgot to say during my talk was that you might have been working with a Year 12 workbooks in Python or Java. The Year 13 workbook is a work in progress, but this is the current state of it. It was emailed out to the people who are getting them on about Tuesday, so some of you might have had that email before. I bought a couple of printed copies. The Python ones are in green if anyone wants one to just look through. It's got lots of example programs like the ones that I showed just recently. And this is the Java example down with Red Hat. So those are just lying around. You can pick them up, thumb through them. If they're on that table at the end of the day, I'll take them away. If they're not, I won't worry too much. Have a look at the workbox and let us know if you like it.
Okay, so
those are the Year 13 Level 3 workbooks in development. I've already received feedback that the Python one can be improved. We welcome any feedback.
So I was going to just talk for 5 minutes about how those who are looking at using JavaScript as the programming language, using code vengeance or not, over this next year, how that would fit in if you were doing level 3 programming and with the GUIs and whatnot. So if you're using JavaScript as your language, there's 2 options that I think are viable with regards to GUIs. The first option is attractive if you're also doing, say, 343 digital media using HTML and CSS. Now that would be attractive because you've already taught them in level 1 and 2 how to do HTML and CSS, and if you're doing, 243 and 143, and if you're doing 343, the level 3 digital media, you actually have to use JavaScript as part of the website that they create to make the website interactive. So essentially the same program you write for level 3 programming could probably pass as for the digital media as well. So you can essentially create 2 different types of interactive websites, one for the programming, one for the JavaScript, or one for the program. So just as an example of that, so here we have some HTML. Okay, so I've created 9 buttons, a button down here for reset, and a little input box. Okay, so that's the HTML they have to write. It's fairly straightforward. But for someone who's never done any HTML and CSS, you know, there's a little bit of teaching that is required in order to get students up to the stage to write that much. There's also a little bit of CSS. Ignore that. This CSS down here is the only CSS that was required for this, and that's just to, this bit up here, just to set the buttons to 100 by 100. Okay. Now, the rest of the code is your JavaScript, and I'm not going to go over that. I'm just going to sort of show you how much it is, and normally you'd write this in a separate file. So there's a bit of JavaScript there. This is possibly more complicated than the way I've done it than Achieved and Merit students. This is probably possibly more an excellent version. I must have just broke something just before lunch, so I've broken my first square. Well, there we go, we've done some testing and we've found a bug. So as you'll see, I've added checks so that if they click a button after the game's over, it's not going to change it, or if they click a button twice, it's not going to change it. Where you could have an achieved version that doesn't need to do some of that. Now, what's this reset box? So here you can type a colour, and it'll just change the background colour. And so the reason I've chucked that in there is because in the level 3 standard it talks about handling and ideally Anthony said, handling events from multiple types of components. So buttons have a click event that they handle. Text boxes have change events and key press events. Okay, so chuck this in there just so there's some key press events being handling as well as some mouse click handling. So my second example, so that's approach number one. Write your GUI in HTML and CSS and then write your JavaScript to add the interaction. Approach number two is, and this one I'm not going to even show you the code because as Gerard pointed out, there's no comments in the code, and I wrote this at 12 o'clock last night, so yeah, it's not pretty. Oh no, what have I done here? Should run. Okay, here we go. So this too is probably more an excellence version. There are more basic versions of this. So all we have is a bunch of random blobs with randomly chosen colors whizzing around the screen. I've got a 10-second time limit to click as many of them as I can, and the amount of points you get is proportional to how fast the thing's moving. And when my time's up, it's game over. For a simpler version, you know, you could get rid of the timer, you could get rid of the points, and you know, you could just have round blobs. Although, you know, you could give them the function for creating blobs as opposed to circles. You know, there's a function you call to create a circle. There's another function you call to create a blob, which, you know, I can provide you with. So how does this work behind the scenes? So people who have done HTML, so you see that all there was JavaScript. So I'm also using a graphics library that someone else has created, an open source graphics library called paper.js, which draws or simplifies the process of drawing and animating stuff on an HTML canvas. So who's heard of the HTML canvas? So this is something that's kind of new, and the web browsers are really developing things in this area, so you can create 3D games and stuff for your web browsers. Yeah, and so this library is, here we have a canvas, and we're just drawing stuff to the canvas and using some built-in stuff that's part of the library to help check for click events, and in the case of restarting the game, checking for a key press event. So we got two different types of events there. Oh, we got thumbs up there. Okay, cool. So that's the two approaches. You got your HTML, CSS GUI with the JavaScript for the interaction. Approach number two is to use a graphics library and to write everything in JavaScript, including drawing objects to the screen. Yep.
Is it feasible or easy in JavaScript to have object, a class describing these blocks?
Yes.
So that
yes.
This would be an example of a program if there were a class describing blobs.
That's right. And that would have a draw method that draws itself. You know, it would have properties for how many points it's worth. You know, you could have different types of blobs worth 10 points, blobs worth 20 points,
and so
different coloured blobs. And
so each object wraps up the information about one blob. So there would be an example of something with the GUI and objects.
That's right, yeah, so that's how, yeah. So I didn't talk about on the other side as well. I'll look to, at this stage I'm not planning on providing a level 3 Code Avengers course for programming for next year, but you know, if there was a whole bunch of people who said, oh no, hey, we want to do that, because I wasn't expecting there would be anyone. I was expecting there'd be lots using the level 1 and 2, and there's certainly lots that have indicated that they'd like to do that. But certainly by 2014, I have something really nice that geared students towards creating this type of thing.
Yeah, put on your list of things to do.
Yeah. But if anyone really wants it, I could certainly have it ready by term 4. But yeah, probably not any earlier than that. Yeah. So any other questions? Any questions, comments? Cool. Okay, thanks.